All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble. So grab your coffee with the spoon still in the cup, of course, and some biltong, I suppose. I'm sure that we'll be talking about that later. We've got some news to cover today. I'm in a high energy and good mood despite being woken up by the cat, as usual, a little bit before 6 o'clock in the morning. Her new thing, the alarm clock keeps going off earlier and earlier. She yowls and howls and runs up and down the stairs and wakes the baby up. Then, of course, the baby spends a little bit of time giggling and playing around in the crib, then gets eventually bored of that if she doesn't fall back to sleep. So, yeah, 6:00 fucking clock in the morning. Thank you, Yana. Very cool. I noticed this cat doesn't wake me up, nor does Farah, actually, other than when she crawls onto my legs at night and snuggles in and pokes at my head and meows at me. But she usually does that a little bit earlier, so I can fall back asleep. Speak of the devil, by the way. Yes, indeed. She's jealous of the other co-host, I'm assuming. Anyway, I do believe we are live. Yes, we are. We have some chats. Late and Tarl, says Beowulf AU. Flyer-Rod, clanking in. Icini 2103, clank received, loud and clear. And Mrs. Tag, happy Wednesday, all. Yes, it's hump day, so fucking go and hump. What are you doing with your life? Go get some. Bobby 22, Wizard Man Rad, excellent and true. Dreamology, I'm drunk as fuck. Love you, sir. Drunk as fuck, though. Well, I mean, depending on your time zone, that may or may not be appropriate. Is it Pacific time you're on? Then it's perfectly okay. And I mean, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere, I suppose. Yes. By the way, in chat at the top, if you're watching on YouTube, again, remember our little stickmen are still available. They come with a certificate of authenticity, publicly notarized in Kentucky and signed by the artist. So if you want to bid on those, there's a link above in chat. If you're on YouTube, pinned and cross-platform, it is in the description. Hey, kitty, I'd like to cross my legs because it's more comfortable, but, you seem to be poking around at me. Well, make up your mind, lubber. Yeah, come over here. Be cute for the cameras. Do something funny, you little shit. Anyway, we'll be talking about some various things. We'll be talking about the IRS scandal. The IRS whistleblowers and the Biden crime scandal. I did talk about it this morning, but I wanted to reiterate it on a live stream because it's so fucking important. This is a big fucking deal, as Joe himself would say. Just not being treated as such by notoriously the New York Times breaking the story. Fox gunning for them, actually, and Fox is legacy media, too. I'm seeing a little bit less wagon circling at this moment for Joe Biden. I'm thinking that they might actually want to kick him out and keep him from running because they don't think that he can win. Meanwhile, we've also got the story about a top DeSantis influencer, Pedro Gonzalez, and that particular story. I have a nuanced take on that. Again, in full disclosure, I'm Team Trump. I don't support DeSantis, but there's some nuance there, really. I'll get into it. I've got like 5 different layers of fucking thoughts about that because I don't stand for cancel culture in any way, shape, or form, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll be getting into that one. And we've also got to talk about Epstein not killing himself and the Wagner group. We'll give a general update on that. There is a piece here. It's by the Wall Street Journal, by the way. It's an opinion piece by Walter Russell Mead. It's too early to count Putin out. That is an understatement, in my opinion. So we'll be talking about that various nuance as of this live stream. Alan Smithy, good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. No more super chats. That's about all. Peace out. Anton, I know that you're the fake Anton. It's not the right username, and he's using Rumble for the super chats now, actually. Keefe, don't give a fuck. They hit him with the real impeachment yesterday. He is under impeachment right now. Yet to have a vote. I'll wait and see whether the GOP has the balls to do its job. And of course, impeachment in of itself means absolutely goddamn nothing because you need the Senate to actually convict, and the Senate is run narrowly by the Democrats. They'll hold the line on that one. So we've got other news we have to cover. By the way, we're on SCOTUS watch as of today. We're expecting possibly today a couple of major decisions. We had Moore and Harper the other day. I talked about that this morning. You can check out that video if you want cross-platform. We also are looking at affirmative action involving Harvard and other colleges and their discriminatory practices with admission. That's going to be a big one. And on that one, I'm hoping they go very broad. I'm just not quite optimistic enough to believe that. I think they'll be more narrow on that decision, although I do think that they will side with the plaintiffs in that case. I think it'll probably be a 6-3. Then we've got student loan debt, and that'll arguably be the big one. They might do like one big one today, one tomorrow. Probably for the purposes of not pissing people off, though, they should just do it all at fucking once. And then go on vacation a little bit early, SCOTUS. Just unleash the maelstrom already. We've been waiting for it. Us political commentators, we need your help right now. I want to be able to make a short later. Then I'm going to make Babylonian Beef and Beats. It's actually from Tasting History by Max Miller. Excellent channel, by the way. If you're not subscribed to Tasting History on YouTube, go and fucking subscribe. Spectacular channel. Very well done. I've already made the Parthian chicken that he made. It was exquisite. And considering this, that was the first time that I actually cooked chicken beyond, well, you know, I put this in a pan for a while and it got cooked, or I microwaved a fucking chicken patty. Now I can make fried chicken better than your Meemaw can make it. But back then, you know, it takes time. Skill building is a good thing. Ashley Sticks, I haven't even sat at my desk yet. Well, then you can watch standing. You know, just jog in place, get a little extra exercise, you know. It's all good. Lev Polyakov. Good morning, Sticks. Loving the two cat familiars sharing the stage. Any update on how the Dutch farmers fighting against the climate change land grabs is going? The fight is ongoing. Protests continue. Right now, there's a little bit of a lull, but as I reported, I think early last week, the farmers have walked away from the negotiations with the government because the government wasn't willing to cede enough. Wookie Gremlin. Morning, Sticks. I live in a red state. My local sheriff's office is trying to limit our Second Amendment rights. My saying castle doctrine is not legit. Scary. DM me on Twitter with the details. Is there like if there's like a news link, I don't know what state you're in. Bobby22. I want to make Max's garum. Yeah, that would be a smelly endeavor making garum. But yeah, I mean, if you have plenty of extra land so that you don't have a smell complaint from the neighbors half a mile away, yeah, could be good. Doesn't look like it's difficult so much as it's difficult to make sure that you don't run afoul of some local ordinance. Mungie, the more time DeSantis spends in front of voters, the reeked he looks. I think you mean worse he looks. Autocorrect's a bitch. He went from guaranteed to beat Trump in 24 to a hard nomination battle in 28. If he fails now, he won't win in 28. Somebody else will rise up in his place. It could be Kerry Lake, could be Rand Paul. That's what I would hope for. Could be Ramaswamy. Actually, at this point, he has distinguished himself as, you know, sort of the sane man in the room at most moments. So I like Ramaswamy second to Trump, I suppose, of the current field. DeSantis was perfectly fine. All he had to do was not fuck up. He was a shoo-in for the 28 nomination. He would have been close to a shoo-in for the running mate position under Trump. He definitely would have been on that short list. He appears to have burned that bridge. Americantism. Sorry, Sticks. Got a clank with green tea. There's nothing wrong with tea. No bean water. Hail leaf water. Great gun book, by the way. Go buy it. Yes, of course. My booklet on gun rights is very, very important as a read. I like tea. I drink tea quite often, especially chamomile in the evenings. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get to the news here. New York Times confirms. This is the New York Times to confirm this. IRS whistleblower claim about Hunter Biden probe. Buries it in 21st paragraph of report. The DOJ was accused of blocking U.S. Attorney David Weiss from bringing harsher charges against the president's son. Yes, so we now have the de facto smoking gun. The New York Times, like CNN and similar networks, by the way, I'm going to show you this fucking wad of hair just to show you that it's summer. Yeah, this is what I have to deal with. So if there's like cat hair floating around in the background, it certainly ain't my fault. You know, cute cat is around. You got to pet it. I pet all the neighbors' cats when I'm walking to the store every day too. So, you know, I'm in camouflage now. My pants look like a cat. Anyway, here's the skinny on this. The IRS whistleblower has been borne out by the legacy media, the liberal side of the legacy media. The New York Times, along with CNN and other sites, literally take some of their news marching orders, their news tips, direct from the Biden White House. Oliver Darcy of CNN was bragging about this early last year. They take economic news from them. They get tidbits from them. They get favorable access from them. They softball the Biden admin in return. For the New York Times to even cover this shows how explosive it really is. What happened is that the DOJ, possibly Merrick Garland at the highest level, and he may end up being impeached as well. They may very well succeed at that. It'd be odd if the Republicans couldn't scrape together the votes in the House. They can't remove him, but they can officially say he done goofed. It looks like under command from Biden, and with him basically as the fall guy middleman, who probably doesn't get in trouble, maybe a slap on the wrist, he commanded Weiss not to go after Hunter Biden with any significant charges. He was unable to use the venue of D.C. or California. Now, I would think that a group convened in a blue state like that probably would be pretty amenable to letting Hunter Biden go outright. And sometimes they're trying to use the excuse, and it doesn't hold true for the tax evasion. It has nothing to do with it. One excuse that they've made is that they're trying to pull back on the gun charge, because if they were to try to charge Hunter Biden, it could end up with a Supreme Court case under Bruin. Basically, the federal and or Supreme Court reiterate under the Bruin doctrine, hey, keeping guns out of the hands of someone simply for using an intoxicating substance doesn't really have a long track record in U.S. law, which technically would be correct. It would look odd, admittedly, for the Biden administration to shield Hunter Biden by throwing under the bus their own anti-gunnery. That would be a little bit obtuse. I think that it's more than that, though. I think that this is a grand conspiracy from the top down, from Joe Biden through Garland at the DOJ, onto elements of the IRS, elements of the general attorney here, and so forth. I think that it's from the top down, and we might actually get evidence of that. Now, what happens then? Let's say we end up with a phone call, which you probably won't get, but let's argue devil's advocate. You end up with a phone call that was recorded between Biden and Garland, where he commands Garland to do this. And then you end up with another one, a transcript, an email or something between Garland and Andrew Weiss, proving that it came from the top down. I still wouldn't expect Biden to be removed from office over that. I would expect the Democrats to hold rank, circle the wagons, and say, well, orange man bad. Our democracy is in danger. We must protect Joe Biden at all costs. The only aside is that Biden could, feasibly have a health issue at any routine moment and be forced to drop. Then they may throw him under the bus. If they're willing to go to these lengths to defend Hunter Biden, just to keep Joe Biden from getting embarrassed, which is what's happening here, how much more did they cover for the actual content of the laptop that's important for the public? For us knowing that Joe Biden objectively lied to the American people about various business meetings that he said that he never had, about purportedly and very, very likely his attempt, Hunter Biden attempting to shake down a Chi-Com and using Daddy, who was sitting right there at the time, in order to help enforce that. We have rules for thee and not for me. We do have a dual system of justice in the United States. Absolutely. It's been that way for some time. I would point out it doesn't begin with the Biden crime family. The Clintons were involved in all manner of shtick when they were in office, and going back and back and back. Basically, you're looking at the 1700s. There's always been preferable treatment for certain people, especially those in positions of power over others. It's just that it's much more transparent and much more obvious now, and it's at a much different level. It's been at a similar level since the carpetbagging era. So the Reconstruction era up into the Gilded Age, Progressive era, you get a lot of corruption. There's some civic restraint thereafter for a while, but it quickly gets pissed away, like by FDR. And then you get the neocon war machine rising up. And the United States hasn't legally been the same since. The mafia has been involved, other interests, anarchist groups, basically everything under the goddamn sun that could possibly influence the public in one way or the other seeks to gain that legal protection. It's just the way that it works. Human beings tend to engage in such behavior. It's not even just the fault of the elites. The public has grown lazy in calling them out for doing so because they've been so politicized. People see politics as a football game between Team A and Team B, and so they don't utilize the same legal scrutiny for the two teams because they're nuts. They've been driven mad by cognitive dissonance. The only person that I exempt from that general status quo is Donald Trump, because I notice literally everybody in that system that I know is corrupt fucking hates him. I think that's rather telling. Let's see. We got Sparky. Ukrainian SBU arrested Gonzalo Lira at the behest of the U.S. government. By the way, I had a couple of extra beets, so threw them in with a pot roast. Good. Yeah, the recipe that I'm going to make is going to be with beef. The original is with lamb, but quite a bit of beet in it. Arugula, called rucola in Dutch. And lots of cilantro and a bunch of other goodies, actually, too. Going to be yummy. Mike Huberts, we need to help to keep in an amalgamated bank. We need to keep in an amalgamated. I don't know exactly what you mean. David Walk, you came to the same conclusion I did on DeSantis a few weeks ago. Garland should be toast. Yeah, Garland should be removed, but I mean, what methodology exists to do that? You would need Biden to act, or you'd need the majority of Congress to act, and not just the House. So it's probably not going to happen. Next news story. Here's it's nuance time, everyone. Alex Brusewitz posting this, and there are a bunch of other people posting about it. They're liberals, MAGA, DeSantis fans, neocons, non-neocons, basically everybody. Top DeSantis influencer Pedro Gonzalez regularly espoused racist and anti-Semitic sentiments in private messages, which will endear him to some people and disgrace him with others. These messages are disgusting. He viciously smears Candace Owens and Jews. Kudos to Breitbart News for exposing this creep. Now, here are my nuanced layers of analysis to this. On the first layer, speaking only for myself, I don't believe in cancel culture. I don't give a fucking shit he said something that was off color in DMs. They're private messages. I realize that the plurality of people have views that are outside of what they would say in public. This goes for every race. Let's be honest. You don't have to confirm or deny this in the comments. 99% of you have beliefs in private that you do not talk about in public. It may be you're in a religious community and you're an atheist, but you don't make that present. You still go to church and stuff. Okay. You are among a group of people, they lean right. And so, but you have a couple of like leftist views, and so you just don't talk about them. You're among a bunch of people. You're in a very left-wing community. You're among a bunch of Antifa hipsters. You probably don't mention that you're gung-ho for not censoring people online, et cetera, various races, religions, creeds, colors, ethnic origins, blah, blah, blah. Everyone has views like that. It's not projection to say so. It's just politically incorrect to insinuate the truth, which is that, yeah, people have those views, the vast majority of them. It's not everyone, but the vast majority. And, of course, the views that a person has today that they express in public 50 years later might not be allowed to be expressed in public. Well, where their views would have been conceived of as very liberal 50 years ago, now they're considered politically incorrect and extremist far right. Same goes in reverse. Somebody who had a view that was considered conservative all of a sudden finds themselves lumped in with a bunch of liberals. For instance, I was mystified to learn that it was a conservative view that we should spend $3 trillion killing hundreds of thousands of people in Iraq for no reason years ago. I got called a fucking hippie. I got called a pinko commie for daring to suggest that maybe that wasn't actually a conservative value, according to any reasonable estimation of what conservatism supposedly was, and declaring that George W. was basically just another fucking totalitarian globalist. Well, my view appears to have aged well. Most people's views at the time, simping for the gung-ho post-9/11 period, did not age well. And they took those U.S. flags down and scored out freedom fries on their menus at the restaurant, put them back to being French fries once they sobered up. Now, with Pedro Gonzalez, therefore, I don't really care about his DMs. I just don't care. Okay, he talked about Candace Owens. Well, she's a lightning rod for criticism, and I'm not even going to bother looking at what he said about her. I don't care if he called her a cunt. That's his right to speak freely. I don't personally have a problem with her, but I guess he did. As far as his views on Jews, sight unseen, another reason to analyze this without even reading the messages, which, may or may not even be corroborated in the end. Well, who cares? You're going to hear probably the same thing from Elon Omar. So that's a non-issue. Looking at it on the next level, though, Pedro Gonzalez has been involved with cancel culture himself. It's an example of a person living by the sword, dying by the sword, a person who cheers it on when people he disagrees with being censored in some way, algorithmically demoted, blacklisted, they lose a job, whatever it happens to be. This is really my problem with a lot of commentators. Again, I don't think he should be canceled. He can keep saying his thing. I may disagree with his DeSantis worship, but he has the right to say that. And I don't give a shit about the DMs themselves. I'm nuanced in that manner because I believe in maximized free speech, and I'm a pragmatist when it comes to people's own thoughts with regards to political things. Again, I've been a content creator for a long time. I've gotten messages from people all around the world. I've seen people who in public, they are very, very non-edgy. I'm not going to name names, but in some cases, major content creators that present themselves as not really edgy at all. And they got some edgy views, especially when they get a little bit of alcohol into them, or they smoke a little weed or something like that. I'm aware of this fact. I went to UVM. I've seen liberals in their natural habitat telling racist jokes, for example. But when you whip up cancel culture and you then become a victim of it in some way, of course, from here on out, we're not sure exactly what it does to his influence or anything like that. He's basically saying, well, thank you, I'm getting attention. Fuck off. Say what I want, which is the right way to approach it. Give him kudos for that. When you, though, engage in that same behavior and then it is aimed at you, what the fuck do you expect to happen? This is why we need maximized free speech. This is why everyone, regardless of their political persuasion, should be pushing for non-censorship insofar as it can exist online. Just reform Section 230. By the way, I would point out to Pedro Gonzalez, Donald Trump is the only candidate that actually expressly said he wanted to do that. And, well, actually, I think Ramaswamy might have mentioned it, actually. So there's the candidates. DeSantis has said he's against the hegemon of censorship. He's against, censoring, especially conservatives. Is there a concrete plan? Because I haven't seen it yet. I find that very, very strange and slightly fitting. So I don't want the dude canceled. I don't consider him to be a creep because of some fucking DMs that he sent with regards to his secretive views. Again, grab me some DMs from liberal commentators. Hell, look at the fucking breadliners for a goddamn example in the DMs that we do have from a few of them, and tell me there's not the same goddamn edginess. It's selective outrage. I can be Team Trump and he can be diehard DeSantis fan. I'm not going to dogpile the dude for his DMs. It's just not in my character, and I'm not a hypocrite, to tell the truth. I'm not so caught up in the us versus them mentality that one of my core ideological principles is going to be cast by the wayside. The only thing I'll point out is, yeah, there's a little bit of hypocrisy there. It's a little bit odd. And again, somebody who's been involved with, cancel culture, at least in a roundabout way, in turn, has the DMs leaked and calls for canceling them. Of course, if you're just an influencer, you're mainly an online sort of user, you're probably not going to get banned for the DMs. They might be scrubbed or something, irretrievable on the other end anyway. Although you can report DMs on Twitter, it's not really a thing for the most part. But who cares? I mean, he's telling his real beliefs. If anything, it's a statement about society that people aren't allowed to say the things they really believe in public in many cases. They're not allowed to make humor the wrong way. They're not allowed to have the wrong views on gender and chromosomes or religion or any of these other things. I've been pressured in some cases. I'll use an example. I've been pressured in some cases, even by some of you, diehard clankers who desperately disagree with me on abortion or on certain other issues or on gay rights. Of course, I have no problem with gay people getting married, and I don't see it as anything remotely similar to Drag Queen Story Hour. I think most gay people agree with me at this point. But I've definitely had people mass downvote and raid material when I deviate from what they see as the orthodox line of the right wing that I'm not even part of. I'm used to this. I understand how it works. So as far as Pedro Gonzalez goes, I mean, it'd be interesting. DeSantis may end up facing calls to disavow. I noticed that Donald Trump has been asked to disavow basically everyone under the sun that ever supported him. I'm wondering if the shoe will be on the other foot now. We'll see. Of course, the legacy media doesn't gun for DeSantis and his influencers as much because they're not afraid of him, because they don't think that he can win. I happen to agree with them, by the way. I think that DeSantis has made too many mistakes at this point. But I'm not going to dogpile some random content creator for off-color DMs. Who fucking cares? Many of you have said things probably worse than Pedro Gonzalez in your DMs on one platform or another. And the edgier the platform is or the more anonymous is, the more edgy it gets, by the way. If it's fully anonymous like 4chan, anything that's shy of illegal, everyone's very, very open about their views there. Go there to Politically Incorrect and see what kind of political views you see. A little bit different now from the mainline internet. Is it because of sampling or is it because of the methodology by which posts are made? I lean towards mainly the latter. OMG puppies, for my friends, everything. For my enemies, the law. General Oscar Benavidez, Peru. The Patriot Cairo, the attack on real meat and farmers, is an effort to monopolize the food supply and to remove a source of vital nutrients that make us healthy and strong. Yes, in part. Absolutely. Only the elite is supposed to eat the steak. You're supposed to eat the bug burger or the soy burger or lab-grown chicken. Ashley, my Japanese friends have choice words about China. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's actually less prevalent in the English-speaking world and in Western Europe in general. It is much more pronounced if you go anywhere else. Go to Africa. A lot of people, they don't see themselves as black. Oh, yeah, we've got African pride. No. I'm Yoruba and you're Maasai. We're fundamentally fucking different. Okay, we're from the same continent. Who gives a fucking shit? Try going to Japan and then saying, oh, I love South Korea so much. Hey, my Korean friend, and see what fucking goddamn happens. You'll probably get dropped. Go to Vietnam and insinuate that you're talking to somebody from China. See what happens. They've got the same political ideology overall. You're still going to get in some deep shit. People don't like to be lumped together in shit. Alexandra Otroska. Lol, I'm Polish, and normal everyday water cooler jokes in my country would probably get you thrown out of Western society. In America, even the right got very sensitive on comedy and words. Sad. Yeah, I know. I've met people from all around the world, and I've noticed that above all people in the world, the great irony is that Americans are the most sensitive towards political correctness. The most taken in by political correctness of any other group that I've ever met in my entire life. I'd say this as someone from the United States. Even here in the Netherlands, this is a Western country. Most everyone, by the way, does speak some English. It's part of the EU. It's clearly developed, first world. It's much more bawdy. You see stickers on lampposts and stuff that would probably get prosecuted in the United States. And this is supposedly a socialist hellhole, and the United States is supposedly the land of the free. But it's the exact opposite. The only country that fully enshrines the concept of free speech on a truly meaningful level is the one that's most willing to give it up. It's a form of decadence. It's sort of like how the Eastern Europeans fight tooth and nail against the same communism that Western Europeans sometimes embrace. It's because they actually had to live under it. They know what it's like to suffer. Rockstar Podcast. I just purchased some new teaspoons specifically for clanking. My fresh French press coffee already tastes better. Excellent. Sparky, I stand with mom and pop Dutch farmers, as do I. They're trying to chase them off their fucking land so they can't even do anything. Radine Scorza, have you noticed Bernie Sanders sound like the principal from Beavis and Butthead? Now, I've only watched some Beavis and Butthead. Only a few episodes, although I did find them funny when I watched them. Next news story. Is a Wall Street Journal opinion piece. It's too early to count Putin out. The Wagner rebellion made him look weak, but brutal leaders have survived worse. I would like to say that depending on the reasoning behind it, it doesn't necessarily indicate any weakness by Putin whatsoever. I noticed that the Wagner group were freedom fighters a few days ago, and now all of a sudden, once again, they're evil insurrectionists that are, by the way, being subjected to more sanctions by the United States, by the Biden admin as we speak. That's funny. All the liberals called them freedom fighters a couple days ago. They thought that this dude was going to oust Putin. Well, what happened? Now they're labeled terrorists or insurrectionists. It's because, again, they didn't fulfill the goal that the Western liberals wanted them to fulfill. Our general updates on this, I agree with the sum and substance of this story, but I think it understates it. I don't think that we can necessarily glean anything meaningful from it because it could be a feint literally designed by Putin and the Wagner group in association with each other. Hasn't changed really anything other than now you've got 10,000 additional Russian troops, mercs, that are right next to Kiev. That's very helpful for the Ukrainians, by the way. I don't think you can glean anything from that. Beyond the sanctions, though, everything else is still fog of war. The only update that can be given in good faith is, hey, we're not really sure what the fuck is going on right now. All we know is that when the situation gets abnormally messy and really obfuscated, when the fog of war really closes in, there's usually a reason for that. Something is going on. We're just not sure what it is. Could be good for Putin, could be good for Wagner, could be good for Ukraine, could be good for the West, could be good for the East. Maybe it's good for Xi Jinping. That's a pretty good guess. But we don't know exactly what the fuck is going on over there at this time. We've got conflicting statements by East and West and various subpowers within on pretty much every detail of what went on there. About all that we know is that Wagner has now, part of it has been absorbed into the Russian military at large as contractors, and the rest are in Belarus with their leader. And now we have actually the leader of Belarus coming out and saying, well, I stopped Putin from destroying them. Yeah, I said, look, you know, you're going to get pit bombed, basically. So why don't you just come over here? I'll broker a deal between you and Putin. Don't worry about it. You can stay here in Belarus. Now, it's believable. It's just not still 100% clear whether that's true or not. I would notice that Belarus's leader really likes to brag about himself in a diplomatic sense. It's not the first time in this year that he's done this. Might chuff Putin slightly. Maybe Putin ends up knocking him off, Tito style. Paracelsus Underach. Political correctness started in the USSR. It meant a person was factually incorrect, yet correct under political doctrine. The collectivists have now already subverted America. They definitely trying, yeah. They've been trying for a very long time. Although, keep in mind, censorship predates the USSR. Never should have existed in the first place. Uncle Gib on Rumble. By the way, sending $100. Thank you very much, my dude. Or dudette. I don't want to, presume pronouns. It's probably bannable on half of the dozen sites now. Thank you for the work you put in on a daily basis. To produce 3 or 4 videos almost every day of the year is pretty impressive. Yeah, it's a big thank you. It's a big catalog of material and much, much more to come. I'd say that the live streams are actually a bit harder because sitting still for an hour and not multitasking is more difficult for me than just making the one-offs in the morning. Because in between those videos, I can always go brew coffee. I can go out for some fresh air and jog around for 5 minutes or something. And King of Biltong, good morning from Anton's in Roanoke, Texas. Hashtag Clank Nation. Yes, you can get your Biltong from Anton. Dagnabbit32, Sticks, what are your thoughts on the 10th Amendment Center? 10th Amendment Center? I don't know of it. I probably should, though, as a political commentator. Somebody can DM me on Twitter with more details. Next news story, I would like to say the obvious part up front and out loud. Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. This is more than a meme at this point. It's nothing here fucking makes sense. Read this headline. They just determined that it was suicide, and then they released a scathing report on the prison bureau saying, well, they left extra linen in the room, unbeknownst to the guards. They didn't realize that there was an extra batch of linen in it. And the guards failed to look after him properly, and all this other shit. But Epstein killed himself. Literally, the stars aligned perfectly so that he could do it without getting captured on camera fucking hanging himself off a 3-foot edge. Now listen to this one. Here's another element of humdinger to this. According to Insider, via Yahoo News. That basically, Yahoo only exists at this point as a news aggregator, by the way. Jail officials let Jeffrey Epstein make an unmonitored call on the night he died by suicide. Well, he didn't die of suicide, but that's the title. He claimed it was to his mother, but she had been dead for years. So the prison guards weren't even aware of this fact. And breaking with prison protocol, he just was allowed to take this call without an officer being around to listen in on what he was saying in case he was planning a jailbreak or smuggling in LSD or something like that. I believe this totally. It makes total sense. Yet another coincidence. Hell, everything else about his death is coincidental and remarkable and, happens one time out of a million. So basically his ability to kill himself arguably was harder than fucking winning the Powerball. But, add another layer on. I totally believe it. Everything in the entire world lined up, from the cameras to the guards to the linen to the cellmate to the protective order, because he was on medical watch, to the unannounced phone call, ostensibly to his girlfriend, actually. Everything lined up. Everything lined up perfectly. Now, How do I even know that the tale is true, that this was a call to his girlfriend? How do I know that he didn't call someone who maybe had one over on him? Maybe it was someone called Hillary Clinton or something like that. They said, hey, get your affairs in order. Don't worry. The cameras, basically, we're going to make sure that you suffer for the rest of your fucking days. Just do it. Kill yourself. That's possible. Or it's possible that they were trying to just set up to murder him, which I think is more likely. I think that somebody was allowed access to the cell and strangled him. And that they were setting that up. They gave him his last mercy call or something like that. He didn't kill himself. Too many things had to line up in exactly the right way at exactly the right time in a time frame of about 20 minutes in order for him to have done so without us being able to see him actually hanging himself. Sparky, Eastern Europe does have a greater appreciation for free speech than the West. That's why they don't have nearly as much fake news now as the West. There's fake news in every country. Although I would point out that the United States under Obama did scrap its doctrine of the U.S. government not being able to use the legacy media as propaganda outlets. Very helpful for the Biden admin, by the way. Bleach Demons, speculation. Wagner was relocated for training and staging to counterstrike any Ukrainian offensive. Probably a farce, given the media propaganda. It's possible. Sparky. Why would Epstein hang himself with paper linen when he could use the power cord on his CPAP machine? It was in the pictures of his cell. I believe that you're referring to a spurious picture, if I remember correctly. It is possible to do what Epstein did. The problem is, more often than not, you'd fail. The cameras had to be off for there not to be footage. The guards were asleep. The log entries on the computer were falsified. This call was made, and again, one of these guards was involved with this. It was unannounced on the night that he died. There's too many coincidences. Come on. Even a total fucking moron has to understand that he didn't kill himself. There's an outside chance he was convinced to do so under duress. Basically, hey, if you don't want to get beaten and raped every day for the next 10 years, just do it. Take the easy way out. We'll turn the cameras off and stuff. We'll let you die with dignity or whatever. It's possible. More likely, somebody explicitly assassinated him to keep him fucking silent. They thought that he would roll over and give names. That's the most likely possibility that explains what we see. Next news story, why Julian Assange must be freed. Speaking in London on behalf of the jailed WikiLeaks founder, by Matt Taibbi, of course, of Twitter, the Twitter files leaks fame. I agree with him, and it's something that should be at least sporadically brought up by content creators. Julian Assange did nothing illegal. He did nothing wrong. He did not hack anybody. He did not encourage anything to be hacked. He simply opened up a venue for people to whistleblow. As we see with the IRS whistleblowers, I wonder why the government has such a big problem with people using that moniker. I wonder. I would point out that one of the biggest blots on Trump's political career was not pardoning Assange. I understand the reason why. He's running for re-election. He's like, well, if I do that, I'm going to get cast off as a Russian asset because they've astroturfed the concept that Julian Assange has some sort of love for Putin, even though there have been a number of dumps from the Kremlin by WikiLeaks as well. But that's not the way it'll be perceived, so I probably fuck myself if I pardon him. I'll wait till I get reelected. And I do believe, by the way, there is a pretty measurable chance that Donald Trump would pardon Assange if given a second term. Do I know this about anyone else? Well, Ramaswamy, I think, would. He'd probably do that. Nikki Haley and Asa Hutchinson, some of the others are warmongers, so they hate Julian Assange, so they wouldn't do that. DeSantis, I think he's non-committal on the base. I guess it depends on who donates more money to him, I suppose. Julian Assange has effectively been held under torment conditions now for years and years and years for no crime whatsoever, facing extradition for literally no reason. It's completely goddamn pointless. The man is effectively nothing more than a whistleblower aiding journalist. And he does the same sort of things that the legacy media in the United States used to do on a regular basis, but stopped doing. And that's the reason why they're doing this to him, to keep him silent, to keep him behind bars, to torment him slowly to death. They're doing this to dissuade others from doing actual journalism, because the truth is bad for globalism. I'll just leave it at that. And yes, by the way, to Adash, Trump Ramaswamy, that could work, actually. I pooed today. Take my TP money. Well, thank you, I will. Sparky, to be clear, Epstein didn't kill himself. Exactly. You have to be a little bit brain dead to actually believe the official storyline, especially with this new information. How many goddamn coincidences have to stack up before Johnny come lately understands what the hell went on there? He was either killed or he was encouraged strongly to simply end his life and given the means to do so. DO7JJ. Sticks in North Carolina, the courts muted the Dems complained. Now SCOTUS told the state legislature has the power to make election law. Yet a 6-3 SCOTUS says otherwise. Hashtag we are screwed. Not necessarily. There will be additional legal cases, I'm sure, on that token. By the way, as I said this morning, it didn't matter what outcome you had because either way, SCOTUS should not have ruled on that case at all. It should have left it alone. Alexandra Artroska, disagree with Sparky. We just have as many fake news. It's just that we don't have our Trump to make the corporate press go into a total self-destruction panic mode. They are despised too, though. David Green. Everyday Spy has spot-up analysis on Wagner and Putin. Interesting. Oh, here's a good news story, by the way. It's, showing the desperation but the great economic success of New York City. Congestion pricing is coming to New York City, officials announce. New York City has been cleared to implement congestion pricing, a practice that allows the city to charge drivers entering Lower Manhattan. New York Governor Kathy Hochul announced Monday. So, you want to keep people out of part of your city because you're too fucking stupid to improve the transit system. The decision paves the way for the city to begin the program as soon as next spring. So enjoy if you commute to Lower Manhattan, of course, disproportionately affecting a lot of people that are admittedly upper middle class. You can expect to pay some money. Proposals range from charging vehicles $9 to $23 during peak hours. Well, $9 is nothing to some banking mogul, but at the upper end, the night janitor that has to go there and has to live 4 people to one row house because of the goddamn home pricing there and the rent, that's not necessarily going to be great. They say during peak hours. What the fuck does that mean? Have you ever been in Manhattan at midnight? It's still congested. It never ends. It's truly the city that never sleeps. I wouldn't be able to sleep in New York City based on all the light and fucking noise. You'd have to be 20 stories up to have any hope with blackout curtains. Generalissimo Liberty. I hear a lot of talk, but few are willing to do the work to stop the fortification next year, including the primaries. Primaries, I think you're going to have a hard time fortifying them based on polling, although that is possible worry. Yes, people need to get out there and do more. I've already recommended people look up Scott Pressler if they're willing to get involved with ballot harvesting, knocking on doors, and trying to win people over. Again, a few thousand people, with the multiplication effect that dude has, a few thousand people turn into 50,000 votes fairly easily. Bannon runs groups that are responsible for doing similar things. And Trump's campaign, he's the only one with a significant ballot harvesting operation. I like when they tried to skew it a couple days ago when he came out and said, well, don't worry, I have the votes. When they were asking him about that, people were trying to deflect on what he said and said, well, Trump's not interested in ballot harvesting. See, he can't win. He's got an operation. What he was trying to tell you, morons, is that he's already doing that. So he's already doing it. He'll get the votes, according to Trump. We'll see whether that happens. Dan Malone, 53. Happy upcoming 4th of July. $5 for a gallon of gas, $50 for 4 steaks. The good news is still that hot dogs are fairly cheap. Yeah, if you're getting the kind that are probably made of literal dog, I suppose. Bratwurst prices are definitely up. Opinionated Junkie. Thoughts on public domain and copyright. I support reforming copyright law. Public domain should not be an infinite kick-the-can process. It makes no sense that works that were written by people who died 60 years ago are still in copyright, even in cases where there's no clear heir or chain of custody of that document. The same would be true of music and movies and stuff. By the way, as some of the shit from the 60s enters public domain, expect them to try to do a Mickey Mouse treatment to musical copyright law. It's an official prediction. That'll be coming in the coming years. Opinionated Junkie. Thoughts? That's one that I just read. By the way, please send no more super chats. I've got one more thing to talk about here, and I got to start prepping the meat, prepping the beets, and prepping the other ingredients for Babylonian beets and beef. Opinionated Junkie. Doesn't New York City have toll roads and highways? Yeah, I know. Mark Guidetti, you should really should read P. Gonzalez DMs. They're far worse than you think, and they were all DMs to the group called Right Wing Death Squad. This isn't normal. Yeah, but I don't care how offensive they were. I see worse shit all the time, I'm sure. I'll look into them, but I have a feeling that I've seen worse. Him being a DeSantis simp doesn't mean that I want him to be silenced or be unable to voice his opinion in a private venue to other people. He has every right to do that, and I'm sorry, I just can't care. Orwell's Goon, CBS reporting, we're coming for your children as a years-old chant is full mask-off revelation of the method moment. Yeah, they're claiming that when people say that, it's an attack, it's transphobic now. They're trying to gaslight on that. Just ignore the video that I believe was by literally that same title that was released last year. A bunch of LGBT individuals. Very strange. Generalissimo Liberty. I'm considering taking on our congressman because he is always on the list of traitors, including the COOF database. We have to clean them out. Yeah, anything that you can do to get rid of the neocon neolib dross is always a good thing. And then we've got the final news story. I happen to agree with the sentiment. In fact, it sounds an awful lot like statements that I've made. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., so score one for him. This is something on which I agree with him fully. There was no time in history where the people censoring free speech were the good guys. I'm pretty sure that I had a video by that title at some point in the prior year or so. I'm beginning to think some of these candidates are casually aware of certain content creators. He's completely right. I've looked, I remember doing this. I looked through history and I said, I'm going to look through some like random political movements and revolutionary groups and shit and find, has there ever actually been a single instance in which an entity, whether it's a state or not, has muzzled other people? And in the end, like in retrospect, you look at the methodology and the impact, and you find that it was necessary and proper and that they weren't doing it for some malevolent purpose. I was left scratching my head. I couldn't find a single instance of it. From suspending people's right to speak out generally means that the group attempting to do so is afraid of them. I notice that oftentimes they are populistic groups. So individuals and organizations that want to be left alone, want to do something, want to exercise a freedom, are the ones that are getting dogpiled that way. Now, most often it comes from a state. What we see right now is that you also have a new and arguably even worse hybrid system where states in which you can't directly censor people in most cases, like in the United States, First Amendment, of course, reigns supreme. You go through the companies that you've artificially monopolized that run human communication. So if a person has been disappeared by Google and its subsites and Meta and Twitter and all the others, well, I mean, they can still speak. It's just they can't speak to the average person because those are the digital town square for most internet users. And there are others as well. When you get debanked by all the major banks, well, they offer services that aren't necessarily offered by smaller banks in some cases. It's a middleman effort, actually. In some cases, it can be cultural, too. Person can have their views suppressed. Let's say they live in a highly religious community, which doesn't necessarily have a fully functioning understanding of the separation of church and state. And there's a couple of atheists there. Well, they're not necessarily treated with the same legal latitude that one of our fine, upstanding Christian citizens happens to be treated with. It's the same thing. And by the way, I would like to address RFK Jr. in one other respect. People that are expecting that Trump is going to take him on as a running mate are fooling themselves. While there are some things about RFK Jr. that are good, while it would bring some disaffected Democrats to such a ticket, it would, you could win with such a team up. I don't think it's going to happen. Donald Trump, for one purpose and one purpose only. RFK Jr. has a very similar personality in the exterior sense to Trump. He likes to show off his muscles. Admittedly, for someone pushing 70, he's quite well built. Not exactly Arnold Schwarzenegger, but the man's pushing 70. Give him fucking credit where credit's due. I also think, and I know that this is probably low to say, but I think Trump would get fucking annoyed at his voice. And I don't think Trump would like that. I don't think that Trump likes to have people around him that annoy him in any way. He wants yes men. This is, by the way, one of his shortcomings. The Ahagao faces, TixX and Amber 666 Fumo plush when? Never, of course. Sparky never said that Eastern Europe didn't have fake news, just not nearly as much as the West. I'd have to fact check that. But then, of course, it's impossible. ZBMan100, things I want. Government that respects my rights. Equal justice for politicians and citizens, and a good Legacy of Kain sequel. I expect none. How sad. And Generalissimo Liberty, here, take the money. Well, thank you, I very much will. Always like to receive that shit. You know, diapers cost a lot of money. Anyway, I'm going to go offline now. I thank you to all of the people that tuned in, about 4,300 at peak. And I will be live again tomorrow, but I really should, you know, after a relaxing period here, the baby comes back, the wife comes back, immediate prepping of food. I'm thinking it's probably going to smell good given the ingredients. And I love beets anyway, so I'll probably put in extra beets or some shit like that. And beets do go good with arugula, I found out, especially with goat cheese, although, of course, this recipe is not using that. That's about all. Peace out.